The gatehouse, the history, and the chemistry that does not care about what happened. Let us start with the gatehouse situation, because there is genuinely something happening here beyond just Michael's strategic decision to keep Willow close enough to monitor and far enough to manage. The specific choice to move Willow back onto the Quartermain property is doing more than one kind of work narratively, and the show has been making sure the audience understands exactly what the other kind is.
Cast your mind back.
There was a time, before everything between Michael and Willow calcified into the specific hostility it has become, when they could not get through their son's birthday party without slipping away together. They were both otherwise committed at the time. That did not stop them. The pull between them was strong enough that it overrode every rational consideration about timing and loyalty and what they were supposed to be doing. That is a very specific kind of chemistry. The kind that does not announce itself politely and wait for convenient circumstances. The kind that operates on its own schedule regardless of what the people involved have decided intellectually. What Michael and Willow have become to each other across this summer is the result of genuine betrayal and genuine damage on both sides. The custody war has been vicious. The revelations have been shocking. The specific hurt of what Willow did to Drew and what Michael knows about it, and the way that knowledge has been deployed as blackmail. None of that is small. None of it is the kind of thing that simply dissolves in the warmth of proximity. And yet, the episode where Willow was high-produced something that the show was clearly aware of as it was staging it. Michael sitting with Willow while she was in that altered state. The guards coming down in the specific way that chemical impairment removes the defenses people construct. The sweetness in his voice that she noticed. The version of him she had not heard in so long. The reminiscing about being on better terms. The moment where it seemed like she might reach for him. The writers pulled back. They let the moment get close and then stepped away from it. That is not because there is nothing there to pull back from. That is a creative decision to establish the chemistry before deploying it, to make sure the audience has seen and felt what is between these two people, so that when it comes up again, the audience understands the full weight of it. Willow moving into the gatehouse is not simply a monitoring arrangement. It is two people who have extraordinary chemistry, who used to be together and let themselves be together even when they should not have, who now actively hate each other and know things about each other that could be used as weapons, being placed in close proximity to each other with a shared project, which is the well-being of the children they both love. That is the exact setup that soap opera storytelling has used to produce collisions between enemies since the genre began. The shared family activities Michael mentioned, doing things together with Willow and the kids, presenting some version of unified parenting, is the daily domestic context in which two people rediscover each other's better qualities. Michael making cookies with the children when Willow came in is a tiny version of this. The life being constructed at the Quartermain estate is going to create more of those tiny versions, adding up to something that neither of them intended. It is not going to happen quickly. The hostility is real. The damage is real. The affidavits and the rolling pin and the specific cruelty of the face-to-face versus sneaking up behind comparisons are real. But the chemistry was real first. And the show has not brought Willow to live at the Quartermain estate just to give Michael a monitoring advantage. It has brought her there because there is a story to tell about what happens when these two specific people stop being able to avoid each other. Whether that story is a triumphant reunion or a spectacular disaster or something more complicated than either, that is what the fall is going to answer. But the proximity is now in place. And everything that comes with it is coming. Danny and Charlotte conspire, and Scout holds her breath. Now let us talk about what is developing between Danny and Charlotte, because this teenage scheme is the kind of story that looks lighter than everything else happening in Port Charles right now, and is actually carrying its own quiet weight about what it means when a parent's control becomes something that looks more like a prison. Scout said it out loud to Rocco at the pool. She said her life was easier when her father was in a wheelchair. She immediately broke down and asked him to forget she said it. And Rocco, who is a genuinely good person, told her he understands. That moment, a child admitting something about a parent that feels like a betrayal even when it is simply honest, is one of the truest things the show has produced around Scout's storyline all summer. Because Scout loves her father. That is not in question. The relief and the joy she had when he appeared in that doorway, the tears of happiness, the rushing into his arms, all of that was completely real. She wanted her father back. She wanted him healthy and mobile and present. What she did not anticipate was that healthy, mobile, and present would come with a level of control over her world that makes her feel like she is being monitored rather than cared for. Drew's restrictions on who she can see, where she can go, what families she can be in contact with, these are not the expressions of a protective father processing a difficult period. They are the expressions of a man using his daughter's access to the world as an extension of his own unresolved grievances with the people around her. Scout knows her brother. She knows Alexis. She knows the family on her mother's side that made up her whole world while Drew was in his wheelchair, the people who held her and loved her and kept her connected to her mother in the only ways that were left. Drew cutting those people off does not protect Scout. It makes her world smaller. And Scout, who is 12 and navigating this with more clarity than the adults around her sometimes manage, can feel the difference between being protected and being constrained. Danny understanding this is what brought him to Charlotte. And the choice of Charlotte as the person to help him is very deliberate and very Danny. Charlotte figured out how to have a secret relationship with her own father when her mother did not approve. She has experience with exactly this kind of problem, navigating around a controlling adult to maintain a connection that the controlling adult has decided to prohibit. The skills required are observation, creativity, and a willingness to operate in the spaces that the controlling adult has not fully sealed off yet. Charlotte is willing to help. She was not immediately sure how, given how tightly Drew monitors Scout's movements. The speedboat option is off the table. Danny is not allowed to use it. The Quartermain Lake is now forbidden for Scout because Drew apparently does not want to be reminded of what happened there. The island that might have served as a meeting point is inaccessible. But Charlotte noticed something. Drew has not forbidden Scout from spending time with Charlotte specifically. He may not have thought of that particular avenue yet. He is watching for the family members he hates, Danny, Jason, Alexis, the whole side he has been trying to cut off. He is not necessarily watching for Charlotte, who comes from a completely different part of the Port Charles world. So the plan forming is this. Charlotte arranges something with Scout alone. Gets her out from under Drew's monitoring on the pretense of just the two of them doing something. And then, once they're in a space where Drew is not watching so closely, the situation can be adjusted to include Danny. Not immediately, not clumsily, but with the specific patience of two young people who understand that the solution requires more finesse than a direct approach. The risk is obvious. If Drew finds out, and Drew is operating with the specific vigilance of someone who suspects he is being worked around, the consequences are going to be disproportionate. He is not a reasonable parent in the conventional sense right now. He is a man who has constructed his control over Scout's world as part of his larger architecture of grievance and revenge. Being caught circumventing that control is not going to produce a conversation. It is going to produce escalation. But the alternative is Scout continuing to exist in a world that is getting smaller by the day, missing her brother, missing the people who were her family in the time when her father could not be, missing the connections to her mother that those relationships provided. That alternative is genuinely worse. And Scout, Rocco, Danny, and Charlotte all understand it. The teenager who said her life was easier when her father was in a wheelchair was not being cruel. She was being honest about what freedom felt like. And the people around her are going to try to give some of that freedom back, one carefully planned meeting at a time.